Good evening, folks, and welcome to the live stream. Hope you're all very well this evening. Let's see who we have on tonight. We have Mark, great to see you. Jean-Luc Picard, great to have you on. Go for it. No, what was it? Jean-Luc Picard said, engage. Yes. Evlo's Sunglasses, great to see you. James, great to have you on. Ava, great to have you on. Colin, great to see you. VTV 201, great to see you. Welcome from evening from Manchester. Great to see you on from Manchester. Fearless Wolf, great to see you. Hope you're well. Tom, great to see you. Raven 1983 Witch, great to have you on too. We have the Freckle Punny, great to see you. Tiny Demolition Lover, hope you're well. We also have Killer, thanks for moderating Killer. We have also Norflinger, Daily Blaze, great to see both of you. We have Casper, Katrina, Idiocracy, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Hugh, great to have you on. We have Young Ralph, great to see you too. Adam, great to see you. Hope you're well tonight. Ryan, great to see you. Eddie, Gene T, Noise. We also have Reagan Elite, great to see you as well. Jem, and so many more. Can't say hello to everyone because we have so many people on. Ak is mad. I see Roshin there too. CGM, great to see you. Nico, and so many more. So I hope everyone is very well tonight. Sorry I can't say hello to everyone. We're on 267 viewers, so remember guys to smash the like button. Hope you had a very nice week, and we're going to jump into, of course, the main topics tonight: the economy, the energy bills, of course, striking workers, labor polling, which was really surprising, and what is Vladimir Putin up to. So I'll start off with this one here. It says tax cuts for the rich, benefit cuts for the poor. And this is from Byline Times. It says here, the government has mooted real-term cuts to welfare benefits to help meet the ongoing economic crisis that is exacerbated by the mini-budget announced a week ago. The Times front page on Friday, the 30th of September, led with the story that the government was discussing raising benefits in line with earnings, leading to real terms cut for those mean households already struggling to make ends meet. That to make ends meet risk failing deeper into poverty. Rise in line with earnings would be 5%, while inflation hovers around 10%. So instead of increasing benefits in line with inflation, they're increasing benefits in line with wages. And you know, the average wage is going up 5%. Trade unions are trying to push it up much higher than that for their members, and that's why we're seeing strikes at the moment, because the workers want a better deal, and it's not just on wages; it's also on conditions, because a lot of the workers are being asked to do extra hours. There's concerns over safety, for example, when it comes to railways. The railway companies want to cut costs, so they want to cut safety, for example. What was it? In July, I was in London, and something, now I know London is a special case, but something I found really, really helpful was when you arrive in the station, there's somebody there. There are machines, of course, but there's always somebody there to check, to help you out if you have a problem. And I needed some information about getting from, I think it was London Bridge to Gatwick, and I wasn't sure about which train to take, and I asked the person there, and they were very helpful. So that was really beneficial. The unions are saying that the train companies want to get rid of those people. They just want to get rid of as many staff as possible, which will, undermine customer care, but also there are security issues, safety issues, I should say. And then we get to wages, where some of the trade unions are saying that they're being offered maximum 8%. I think it was the RMT were saying 8% over 3 years, which doesn't cover the cost of inflation. So that's why they're going on strike. So it's working conditions, and also probably the biggest issue, of course, the fact that the companies want to lay people off and rehire them under worse conditions, fire and rehire, but not even with proper contracts, but through agencies. Sorry, I have a bit of a sore throat tonight, so I hope I can make it to the end. But this is, of course, once again, the idea of a party, the Conservative Party, on the side of the rich, benefiting them at the expense of everyone else, especially, as always, especially those at the bottom end of the economic scale. There's no concern for the struggles that people are going through. And tomorrow, there is the new energy price cap, which I'm going to cover in a moment. That kicks in tomorrow on the 1st of October, and it will see energy prices go up because the limit on so prices are going up all the time, but the new limit will be much higher than the previous one of £1,971. The new one is 2,500. But I hope you're all very well. I hope you had a good week. Let me read some of your comments before we move on. I don't use Royal Mails much now. It's too slow and expensive. The post office workers are going on strike as well over paying conditions. Mistrust and quasi-accounting. The Freckled Bunny Girl, that's a great mistrust and quasi-accounting. Laid the stuff out in the Brexit Bible, Britannia Unchained, over a decade ago. Yeah, that's a book I want to get, actually. I keep meaning to get it. To have a read into the mindset. This is the Brexiteer mindset. I know Liz Truss wasn't a Brexiteer at the time, but this idea of deregulation is the future. Deregulating everything and cutting back on workers, cutting back on training for workers, cutting back on wages as well. It's about this, small government disaster capitalism mentality. But I do want to read the book and may even try and give some sort of review on it, because it is it's the sort of manual being used by the current government. It's no longer just a book of non-fiction. Just finished modding at Byline. Oh, that's great to know. You're going to march in Edinburgh, Ruth? I can't go. Anyway, let's. I'm not sure what that comment is about. Truss and Kamikaze enjoying their honeymoon. Yes, it's not going very well. Well, we'll get to that in a little bit. Just want to cover some of the things that from The Guardian here about what's happened over the last number of hours. It says here, following a meeting with the Prime Minister, Liz Truss, and the Chancellor, Kwasi Kwarteng, the Office for Budget Responsibility, I keep calling them the Office of Budget Responsibility, but it should be the Office for Budget Responsibility, has confirmed it will deliver the initial forecast on the 7th of October. Not today. So another week, they'll produce their forecast, but we probably won't have all the information until later. A spokesperson for the OBR said, the forecast will, as always, be based on our independent judgment about economic and fiscal prospects and the impact on the government's policies. The announcement comes after a 48-minute emergency meeting at number 11 Downing Street this morning. The Treasury said that Truss, Kwarteng and the OBR discussed the economic and fiscal outlook as well as the progress for growth forecasts. However, they said the forecast, which they will receive on the 7th of October, won't be published until the 23rd of November. The government also said it values the OBR scrutiny. So the OBR will deliver the forecast to the government on the 7th, and then the government will issue their forecasts on the 23rd of the next month. Okay. I've been saying maybe somebody should just leak it. Just leak it on the 7th of October. A Treasury Minister has contradicted the UK's independent watchdog for public finances, saying it would not have been able to produce a forecast in time for the government's mini-budget. Andrew Griffin, the Financial Secretary to the Treasury, told broadcasters that the growth plan put forward by Truss and Kwarteng contained a lot of detail and repeatedly asserted that the 40 pages long, meaning it would have been impossible for the OBR to have produced an accurate forecast in time, which is a pile of crap, because Ian Blackford asked the OBR and they responded, and I uploaded a video about that today, and they replied and they said we could actually do that. Adam, thanks so much for that super chat. Great to see you on the stream, Adam. Hi Max, I'm going to be in and out of these due to working on planned maintenance, shut at Stanlow. But let's do a Sunday roast as soon as we can. Yeah, Adam, keep in contact with him. Do send me some WhatsApp or some messages on Twitter, because we'll definitely have you on for a Sunday roast. So I'll get on to Alex about that, and we'd love to have you on. Definitely, we'd talk about Brexit and all the wonders of Brexit too, and some of those issues as well. So yeah, it'd be great to have you on, Adam. Thanks so much for that. It goes on to say the Prime Minister will be on the BBC Sunday with Laura Koonsberg this weekend as the Conservative Party conference begins. Which is funny about the Conservative Party conference. It seems nobody wants to turn up, and of course, what they'll do is they'll blame low turnout on there was the rail strike. That's why nobody turned up. When in reality, a lot of Tories are saying we don't want to be anywhere near this. Liz Truss has become toxic, and we want to distance ourselves from her, because she is, as we're going to see in a bit, a massive pull on the party. Now, I used to say that Boris Johnson was creating problems for the Conservatives. Back at the beginning, I think it was back in May, when there were some by-elections, the Tories lost both of the by-elections, and this was damaging for the party, and MPs would be looking over their shoulder. I think you could almost see defections at this stage, and I'm surprised you're not seeing more defections, because if an MP defects to the Labour Party, they're pretty safe. There's going to be a massacre at the next election, but then we don't know when it's going to be, because it requires the Conservatives supporting a no confidence vote in the government, and a lot of them will say, yeah, we don't like Liz Truss, but they'll support her anyway, because they don't want to go to an election, because they'll lose their seat. So they're of course putting their seat and their position ahead of the good of the country, which always happens. It's not something surprising. Biggest train crash will be Truss's speech. Yes. Although I think it'll be probably something like, we're rebuilding after the pandemic, and we're delivering, and she'll get the the sycophant. The sycophants will be going around the auditorium making sure that everyone claps. Don't worry, Max, I'll be there with my union flag. Please let Joe Lycett be on with Liz Truss on Sunday show. That'd be wonderful. He's extremely right wing. It goes on to say the half of the public now believe it's likely Keir Starmer will become Prime Minister, according to polls. According to PA Media, a poll of 1,000 adults by Ipsos found 51% think Starmer will enter number 10, up from 38% surveyed in May. More than one-third of voters, 35%, said it was unlikely Starmer would become Prime Minister, a decrease from 50%. Still, it's still... if there was an election held today or tomorrow, Starmer would be Prime Minister. I don't know why people... Because they don't ask in the future, they just say, if there was an election tomorrow, do you think he would become Prime Minister? I don't know how people are... only 51% are saying, yeah, that's probably going to happen. More polls have given the Labour Party strong leads over the Conservatives. One BMG for the newspaper gave them a 17-point lead on 47% to the Tories' 30%. Meanwhile, smaller firm Omnius gave them a 33-point lead, and they had 55% against the governing party's 23%. Now, of course, the 33% is the one that grabbed the headlines. 33-point lead, sorry. That was the one that grabbed the headlines, and other polls seem to point in the same direction. So it's maybe not an outlier. No, DLC, great to see you on the stream. Thanks so much for that super chat. Opinion polls showing a massive turn away from the Tories, but the only thing that would be convince me of real change is when people stop buying those effing newspapers. Yes. The thing about the Sun is I don't think the Sun, for example, has made a profit in a number of years. It's been propped up by Murdoch or whoever. Same with, I think, the Express as well. The Express has very, very limited readership. The website as well, I don't know what sort of viewers it gets, but I think it's extremely limited. And a lot of it is just, the Express is so desperate for viewers. What they do is they start running stories on comments made by members or people who just comment on the website. There'd be a story about, Ursula von der Leyen, and then what they do is they would take the comments that people are making about Ursula von der Leyen and then make a story out of that, saying, Brexiteers issue backlash against Ursula von der Leyen, and it's just like comments from the comments section on the previous article. It's ridiculous. But yeah, until people start abandoning these newspapers, and look, I don't know if this is really people supporting Keir Starmer. I think there is a shift away from the Tories to the Labour Party, in the sense that it's not just people angry with the Tories, it's people also looking at Keir Starmer and going, well, maybe this guy is what we need. It's not just I'm angry with the Tories and I'll vote for a flower pot. It's actually people looking, and it's difficult to judge that because many people are angry, people are concerned, people are desperate. So we need to do something. The government are doing nothing to help people. These measures that they're bringing in are going to be any support that's brought in to deal with energy bills is going to be completely wiped out with inflation or with the rise in interest rates. And it must be remembered, I was actually quite shocked by this figure. About over 60%. Britain has a 60% ownership, home ownership. Was a percentage of homeowners let me say that again. 60% home ownership in Britain. That's a pretty high level. It could even be more than that. It could be almost 70%. So we're talking about a lot of people who either own their homes outright or people who have mortgages. And there's talk of the price of the repayments, the monthly payments are going up by a massive amount. We're talking about £3,000 or £4,000 a year on a loan of £100,000. And if you factor in that the average price of a house in Britain is about between £300,000 and £400,000, that's a lot of money. You're talking almost £10,000 extra per year just in mortgage payments, and people can't afford that. And many people will end up defaulting on their mortgages, and then the problems. Then we saw what happened when that happened. We saw the consequence of that back in 2007, 2008, with the Great Recession. People were defaulting, and this was in the United States. But I don't think it's going to be limited just to Britain. I think it's going to spread around Europe at least. But anyway, we got another super chat. Thanks so much for that one, Nodialsi. We have another from Gareth. Great to see you on the string, Gareth. Hope you're well. Gareth says, trickle-down mindset explained during other scenarios. Can you imagine trickle-down IVF? Doctor just dumps a semen jar on a woman's head and waist. Okay. Thanks for that imagery. Yeah, but it is the Tory mentality. I love the one of somebody wrote it on Twitter a few days ago. There were I see a homeless person, and what I do is I put £10 into an envelope. I drive around. I find the most expensive house in the area, and I stick the £10 through the letterbox, and then wait for the money to trickle down to the homeless person. That's basically what the government has been doing, and saying, yeah, this is the right approach. Instead of actually helping people directly, big red button, UBI, now it's done, it's dusted, okay, we move on. But helping people directly, no, we're going to help the rich. And then, when they buy their yacht, perhaps, the person who works building the yacht can earn some extra overtime, and then that money that'll help them pay their bills or something like that. Or they'll invest it in jobs. Yes, they'll invest it in companies to create jobs. That's what they do. Yeah, that's what these people do. The ones who receive these massive bonuses or these massive tax cuts. No, they don't do that. It's like what they were saying with the windfall tax. They were saying, okay, well, companies who invest in renewable energy, for example, or energy produced in the UK, like gas or whatever, if they invest that money, then they can avoid paying the windfall tax. And they're like, yeah, but we already are doing that. It was a way of getting around the windfall tax. Gareth, thanks so much for that super chat. We have also Fearless Wolf. Thank you so much, Fearless Wolf. Daily Mail is handy when you run out of loo roll. Yes, it's probably cheaper. It's cheaper than a few. Or if you go, the day after the newsagent has sold the papers, like instead of, I don't know, are they returned to the printer or what? But if they have a few lying around, you could say, could you give us those for free? You could. There might be a good big front page of Boris Johnson or Liz Truss, which adds to the pleasure. Thanks so much, Fearless Wolf. We have Adam again. Thanks so much, Adam. Express is sunk, held up by a pornographer owner. Wow, I didn't know about that. I knew that the Express readership has completely collapsed, and they're basically just running it as a propaganda wing. It's not actually making any money. It's a bit like Gammon Brexit News. These outlets where somebody has pumped money into it as a means to push propaganda, not actually to make a profit. If they make some money on the side, that's great, but that's not the goal of the channel. Learning to Fly, thanks so much for that super chat. Wonderful song by Foo Fighters, wasn't it? Neither the Mail nor Express mentioned the financial crisis on their front pages last Monday or Tuesday. Of course, what were they talking about? Starmer having a beer or something. That was something I really couldn't get over. During the beginning of this year or mid part of this year, when the Daily Mail ran a story on Starmer having a beer and a curry for 10 days. Front page 10 days. And then it turned out, well, he didn't actually do anything wrong. He didn't break the law. And, they could have talked about anything else. No, let's talk about this. During the cost of living crisis had already begun long before that. But they didn't cover that. No, they were covering Starmer having a beer. And I don't actually remember what they covered on the front page. It was probably something about woke or police officers, dancing at a parade or something like that. Thanks so much for Learning to Fly, and Adam. Number 3, great to see you on the stream. Thanks for that super chat as well. Thatcher's property owning democracy is a contradiction in terms. This whole idea of what we'll do is we'll let people who are renting their properties from the council to buy them, allow them to buy them, and that will solve the housing crisis. But what did it do is it limited the amount of they didn't actually build any extra housing, so the population increased and there was no extra housing built. So you had people either renting out their properties, selling them as part of the private market, and there was no new council house or social housing built, and that's why people are paying huge amounts of money for rent, unsustainable levels. And I think we're starting to see some of that come home to roost now. But unfortunately, and I said this, I don't know how many times, it's always the younger people who are going to suffer. It's the younger people who are being told by the older generations, including my own generation, okay, Generation X. Many people in Generation X look at the younger people and say, you should be buying a house, or you should be on the property ladder, or you shouldn't be eating avocado toast or whatever. I don't believe that, okay? I'm not like that, but I heard it from people of my generation. It's practically, if not completely impossible for young people to get on the property ladder now. House prices are through the roof. Rent is through the roof. So even if you're trying to put something aside renting, you can't, because the rent is eating up most of your income. And then everything else has become more expensive. So you have to, how do you put something aside? And then whatever you've put aside, within a year, it's not enough to put down as a deposit. And now we have this crisis when it comes to mortgages, where the cheaper mortgages are being replaced by more expensive products. So the mortgage providers are taking them in. I think it was 40 products, or maybe it was 400. I don't remember the number exactly, but there was a significant number of financial products have been taken off the shelf and replaced, or not. If they're replaced, they're with more expensive ones. If they're not replaced, not replaced at all. And there was an interesting clip on was it Question Time last night, where a young woman in the audience said she was hoping to get a mortgage. She had been quoted 4%, and now it's gone up to 10%. Completely unsustainable. Thanks for that super chat. Number 3. We have another from Adam. Thanks so much once again, Adam. I would not wipe my balloon knot. My God. I've never heard it called that. Please tell me in the chat, have you ever called a balloon knot with the mail or express? Jesus. When you hear something for the first time, you're like, but you make the connection, but you're like, okay. Thanks for that. And thanks for that wonderful image. And now I'll never be able to look at balloons again. Regan Ali, thanks so much for that super chat. When Labour win the general election, I want Keir to have a beer and curry in front of the media. Yes, that should. Please do send that as a message to the Labour Party. That's what he should do. He should celebrate with a beer and a curry, just to rub the Daily Mail's face in it. That'd be wonderful. Oh my goodness. It's not impossible to get on the property ladder. Both my kids work and have houses in the last year and a half. So you're talking bullshit yet again. If the house prices are increased, I don't know what your children do, sources. So I said it's practically, if not completely impossible. Every situation is different. I don't know, maybe you're a millionaire, maybe you're earning a significant amount of money. That's why it's easier for them to access that. Rusty bullet. I heard it referred to a cigar cutter before. Balloon knot, a-hole, don't look it up. I certainly never blew up a balloon again. The devil's doorbell. God. Okay, we're not going down that road tonight. Stick to serious things, guys. Okay. Jesus. Anyway, it goes on to say, Liz Truss is preparing to push ahead with unlimited number of investment zones. So the policy, in despite of a row with the government, within the government, that could hand an uncosted blank check of tax breaks to businesses. So these investment zones like free ports. This, of course, is she's getting these ideas from the likes of the IEA and other right-wing think tanks. Yeah, set up these free ports or these investment zones where businesses can just move there and pay less tax. They're not actually creating any real jobs. They're whatever jobs they do create in there are much more insecure, I should say. Talks aimed at ending the dispute over the Northern Ireland Brexit Protocol are set to reopen after a video meeting between Foreign Secretary James Cleverly and the European Commission Vice President Mara Šefčovič on Friday. Šefčovič said he had a good conversation with Cleverly over during the call on Friday afternoon. Liz Truss, well, yeah, look, the Northern Ireland Protocol is never going to be very far away. I don't see it being used, though, because there's no real benefit. It'll create a bit of a distraction, but I think we've run out of distractions. I think it's very difficult to distract people from the fact that their bills are going up, mortgages are becoming more expensive, interest rates are rising, inflation is going through the roof. It's very difficult to distract people from that. No number of dinghies or Brexit issues like Article 16 being triggered are really going to succeed in distracting people. Alistair, thanks so much for that super chat. Labour win next general election. Can he fix things? Tories back in this is their Tories plan. Tories back in there. Tories plan. Yeah. So this is something I think, and I hope I'm not mistaking it, and apologies if I do. I think it's something that Phil from A Different Bias has mentioned on a number of occasions, that what the Tories might be doing is allowing Liz Truss to crash and burn with the hope that, okay, then the Labour Party will take over. They'll inherit this poisoned chalice of an absolute and utter disaster, and then by the next election, the Labour will crash and burn, and the Conservatives will come back and win a massive majority. The problem with that is that Liz Truss may have damaged the party beyond repair. Because, in 5 years' time, people may be looking back at, okay, what did Liz Truss do? What did the Conservatives do? Who supported her? The party was fully behind her. And I think, people tend to forget a lot of things, but austerity and the 12 years, and austerity has never gone away really, but the austerity of these 12 years is difficult just to ignore. It's difficult for the party just to say, oh no, that was just a blip, nothing to look at, nothing to think about. But of course, the Labour Party really need to deliver, to borrow a phrase from Liz Truss, but they need to deliver over the next number of years. And I've said this before, you need to give the public something that they don't want to lose. A UBI, for example, increased benefits, support for businesses. You need to present something that people feel that they would lose if they vote for the Conservatives. In the same with Boris Johnson with getting Brexit done. Johnson was very clever, or maybe the people around him were very clever. They sold it as, we're delivering Brexit, and the others want to take that away from you. And they were, successful for a number of years. They were able to hold on. It's completely run out of steam now. Brexit has been basically taken off the manifesto almost. Well, if he delivered Brexit, he got Brexit done. People are still trying to use it as a tool to convince the public to vote for the Conservatives. Protecting Brexit. That was Rishi Sunak's slogan. But Brexit doesn't have the same punch as it used to. And people have moved on from that. Brexit hasn't moved on, but people are, in a sense, moving on from it on a political level, not on an economic level. But it could be the Tories' plan to let Liz Truss just crash and burn and then come back in the future, maybe with Boris Johnson again. I don't know how successful they will be with that. It's a long time in the future. They're probably hoping that Starmer won't win a massive majority, but will win a very slim majority and will have to form a coalition with other parties, and then the Tories can start chipping away at that. But, I don't believe these are true, but there are predictions that the Tories could be completely wiped out, or almost completely wiped out. They could be reduced to the level of the Liberal Democrats are today, with something like between 30 and 60 seats. that sounds impossible. But if that happened, the Conservatives would be, how do you come back from that? You would be reduced to a third party status, almost. You'd be rendered like the Liberal Democrats today. The Liberal Democrats will never win a majority. So the Conservatives could be in such a bad state that they would never win a majority again. And that's why I think it's important that the Labour Party push with proportional representation and end Tory rule forever. Gareth, thanks so much for that super chat. Your bills have gone up. Stop being a Remainer. Yes. Are there still Brexiteers who are happy that everything has gone to shit? Really, it's gone to shit, but at least James O'Brien is upset. That's their mentality. I may not be able to put on the cooker. I may not be able to heat my home. I may not be able to feed my family, but I stuck it to the Remoaners. Thanks, Gareth. It's quite depressing how the footballification, this tribalism has infected people's minds. We have a super chat, Adam, again. Thank you so much, Adam. You're looking for legacy. Brexit is now legacy. I think it remains as a tool for many within the Conservative Party, but it doesn't have the same punch as it did in the past. There are more direct issues affecting people. And, it's become a sort of indirect problem. It used to be a direct problem. Now it's a more indirect problem. Anyway, let's continue. It says, thanks so much for that super chat. But I do think Brexit will come back from time to time and, and be on the front page. But at the moment, it's just causing damage to businesses, and people are not focusing on that. Liz Truss will deliver the biggest real-term cut to basic rate of benefits ever made if she fails to raise them in line with inflation, one of the UK's leading poverty charities has said. We covered that already. It's about not aligning it with inflation, but aligning it with the rise in wages. And the wages are rising at 5%, but inflation is running at least 10%. In some terms, there are different types of inflation. There's there's the inflation for the rich, which they're saying is about maybe 7%, while inflation for the poor, it can be up to like 20%, because what people buy is different according to how much money they earn. So, a bigger proportion of people who are on benefits spend a bigger proportion of their income is spent on fuel, for example, or on food, while the richer don't spend much. They spend, the bigger proportion of their income is probably on property or on purchasing shares or something like that. What do rich people buy apart from yachts and Ferraris? Liz Truss has previously suggested universal benefits such as the state pension should be scrapped because of a huge expense to taxpayers of recycling their money through the system, prompting fears that she could go further still with her plans to cut back the benefits bill. The proposal, including her motion to the Liberal Democrat Youth Conference in spring 1995, highlighted the enormous and rising cost of pensions and child benefit, calling for a search for realistic alternatives to universal benefits. Wow. And she's not talking about UBI here, okay? This, of course, is the sort of language you'll read about, the type of language you'll see in the website of the IEA or other right-wing think tanks. The benefit system isn't working, it needs to be changed. Pension system isn't working, it needs to be changed. And they'll change it to something that will force more people into doing work that they can't do or doesn't pay, or just eliminating the pension age altogether, where you'll have older people having to work until they literally die because they can't afford to stop working. These people do not care, and these people have the ear of Liz Truss. Gareth, once again, thanks so much for that super chat. It also It also tickles me when they compare 27 separate EU countries to one UK, and they're like, we're doing slightly better or less worse than them, therefore it's good. Yes, a lot of them, and I include Andrew Neil in this, who don't know the difference between the EU and France, or the EU and Germany, or the EU and Italy. They don't know the difference between the EU as a bloc and individual member states. And they really fall into these traps when they do that, because they say, oh, look, the EU is doing really bad. Why? Well, Germany is having, high inflation. Okay, but, some other country in Europe isn't. So is that an argument for the EU is not experiencing high inflation? EU is not a country. They don't seem to understand that. For people who are so adamant about leaving the EU, you'd at least think that they would understand what the EU actually is. It's like, do you like this type of food? I've never had it, but I don't like it. But you've never tasted it. I know, but I don't like it. Okay. The Greens have kicked off their conference with a call for taxes on the wealth and dirty profits to finance the transition to renewable energy, while warning Labour's plans unveiled last week are woefully insufficient. At a gathering in Harrogate, days after the Labour conference, based heavily on clean power initiatives, the Green Party in England and Wales, the Scottish Greens are separate, repeatedly stressed policy differences over not just renewables but areas of support, such as support for strikers and public ownership. It's just really sad that because of first past the post, the Green Party doesn't have a bigger representation in the UK Parliament. More and more people would vote for the Green Party if they could, but the problem with first past the post is it's seen as a wasted vote. Not that a vote for the Green Party is wasted. It's just when it comes to these elections, these general elections or by-elections, there's a choice between Tory or not Tory. And the option of not Tory is normally Labour or Liberal Democrat. Because if you vote for the Green Party, it's actually going to help, unfortunately, in some cases, not always. It's going to help the Tories because you're not voting for the main opposition. So you're in a sense handing your vote over to the Conservatives. Now that should not be the case, and that's why I hope that the next administration bring in proportional representation. It's much more democratic. Thanks, Gary. Thanks so much for that super chat. We also have one from Magic. Thanks so much, Magic. They buy things that make up for the lack of a soul. Yes, an ivory back scratcher. Or a golden toilet. That was Trump. Trump had a golden toilets. Something like that. Gold plated or gold, maybe solid gold. It's about something I remember reading, which was really interesting about the rich or the mega rich, is they have everything. So they have no needs. Okay, obviously they have no needs, but they also have very few wants, because, imagine a situation where you say, I'd love to have X. I'd love to have a Ferrari. And these people can just literally buy it. And then the enthusiasm is gone. It's like a child when they, I'd love to have this chocolate bar. You give it, and then the enthusiasm is gone within a few seconds. The mega rich are like that when it comes to items. I'd love to have a bigger house. They build these huge mansions, and then they're like, okay, now what? Their income hasn't been dented, their wealth hasn't been dented at all. And what you start to see is a lot of them start getting involved in these sort of extreme sports or extreme hobbies. As far as I know, I maybe somebody can correct me in the chat if this is wrong or not, but one of the things I read about was Jeff Bezos. One of his hobbies was to recover, to have a ship. The ship goes out into the sea and it recovers these when a rocket goes into the sky, it jettisons part of its the booster rockets. I think that's what you call them. he had this hobby of going out looking for booster rockets and recovering them from the sea. Yeah, it's an extremely expensive hobby. Okay, you need a ship, you need a crew, you need the equipment, you need the fuel to go out there, you need to go looking for these things, you need to recover them from the sea, I don't know, clean them up or whatever. A pointless hobby for most people, but this was his hobby. Or extreme sports, where you're putting a very dangerous, or flying, they'd have a plane where they'd fly it around. Was it John Travolta had his own private jet? He'd fly it around. It wasn't just for traveling. He used it because he liked flying around. These people have more money than sense. Very few of them say, my hobby is looking after homeless people, feeding the poor. But you're right, Magic. It's about, I need to fill a gap. And I think a lot of them a lot of these people are very sad because they don't have anything that fills their life. That they're surrounded by the friends that they have are people who, are in a similar situation and are just competitive over money. Family, they probably don't spend much time with their family, or at least at the beginning, because they're trying to get more and more money, so they're away from their family all the time. They have, a nanny or, like Jacob Rees-Mogg or whatever, looking after their children. They have no connection with their children, and then their children grow up to have a lot of serious problems, and then they disown them, or they try to anyway, it's we're getting a bit off topic here. But this would be great if the Green Party can have, in the next session in Parliament, if there is proportional representation, there's a possibility for the Greens to get a better representation in Parliament. Well, we're up to 500 viewers, guys. Smash that like button. Thanks so much. Great to see everyone on. I'm blabbing away too much because we're over the time for the break, but I'll just continue with this story here. UK pension funds set assets and tap employers in rush for cash. It just says at the bottom here, which is the summary. However, many are worried about what will happen after the central bank's burst of bond buying, which is due to end on the 14th of October. So the central bank is buying bonds at the moment to keep the market stable. David Fogarty of Dallarida, a firm of professional trustees, said, "We as a firm continue to be worried that the clock ticks down to the end of the Bank of England's commitment intervention, and what we will see, and we could see a replay of events that are determined to try and make sure that chaos that ensues at the beginning of this week is not repeated." So there's a real concern that what's going to happen is the Bank of England at the moment is buying bonds to keep the market as stable as possible. We saw that the value of the pound, went up because the market has stabilized, but that's temporary. What can happen next is when this, flurry of buying bonds ends, what will happen? Will the market remain stable, or will it crash once again? And then you will see the pound crash, the dollar rise, probably because people would abandon the pound for the dollar, and then there's all these other issues, with mortgages and inflation and the cost of living. There's a lot of things working together, and unfortunately, you have the wrong people in charge once again. You need competent, pragmatic politicians also with a bit of empathy, understanding what are ordinary people going through. We need to protect the real economy. Instead, it's more tax cuts for the rich. Let's cut benefits in real terms, drive more and more people into poverty, and that will stimulate the economy in some way. The Lefty Boater, thanks so much for that super chat. It's all about the dopamine, just like ADHD. I guess it is when it comes to just getting that extra rush. Mark Zuckerberg is frugal. He always buys the same suits. I don't know if this is true. Thanks so much for that super chat. I don't know if this is true. It's that this is insane, but it's insane level of detail, or an insane level if it's true. It's just insane. I read that Mark Zuckerberg always looks the same because he always buys the same clothes, or he has the same clothes bought for him, probably not him. You don't see him going out to the supermarket or the clothes shop to buy clothes, but he has the same clothes always. Why? Is it because he's boring? No, because, and wait till you hear this, he doesn't want to waste time making decisions, because his entire day is about making decisions, and he doesn't want to waste time in the morning making a decision of, should I wear this or this? I hope that's not true, because that's extremely sad. Gareth, thanks so much for that super chat once again. Normal people have stepping stones in their life, right? School, job, marriage, house, kids, and so on. The rich don't have this, and handed everything from day one. Yeah, it's like, I remember, thanks for that super chat, I remember Donald Trump saying, yeah, I'm a self-made man. All I got was $400 million from my dad. And then he lost it all. He bought, he lost 2 or 3 casinos. Like, casinos are basically a money-making machine, and Trump bankrupted his casinos, like, which is practically impossible. They say the house never loses; the house always wins. So you have a casino and you bankrupt the casino. That's what. And he was handed $400 million, I think it was, when he was 21 or something like that, when he started out. And what's funny is his supporters think he's a self-made man, and he's a billionaire, when in reality he's not. Guys, we're about halfway through the stream, so I just want to take a short comedy break, and then we'll be back in just a second with more serious stuff. Hope you enjoy this.
Gentlemen.
Captain.
The ship is sinking. We need to act now. What plans have we in place?
For first class, we have lifeboats.
For second class, we have life jackets.
Very good. And the lower decks?
Flotation devices.
Excellent.
Yes, they will act as flotation devices for the rich people.
It's going to be freezing, all right? How are people going to keep warm?
For first class, we have blankets.
And the lower classes?
Advice.
Advice?
Yes, like if you wave your arms around a lot, you can increase your body temperature by up to 10%.
Fascinating.
Sir, I found some extra life jackets. Should we give them to the lower classes?
No, I have a better idea. Hand them out to the upper classes, and then let them pass them down.
Oh. Yes. Why wouldn't they?
It makes perfect sense.
Sir, I'm getting reports of unrest on the lower decks.
Okay, something needs to be done. Organize a fireworks display.
Yes, sir.
And you, organize a raffle where you can win a life jacket.
Sir, I don't think it's going to be enough. They're blaming us for the lack of lifeboats.
Really? Well, have you not explained to them that it's not our fault that there's not enough lifeboats?
Isn't it?
No. It's because of the stowaways.
Stowaways?
Yes, it's very important that you learn that word, gentlemen. Stowaways.
Stowaways.
Yes.
Sir, the inner hull has been breached. The lower class cabins are filling with water.
Hold firm, now is not the time to panic.
Sir, the middle class are getting nervous.
Give them a 5% discount on the tickets, that should keep them happy.
Sir, we're sinking. Do something.
What the hell do you want me to do about it? It's not my fault, is it?
You know what? I'm not surprised this ship is sinking with you as captain.
Oh, well, that's very rich, isn't it? Seeing as we wouldn't even be in this situation in the first place if it wasn't for the course that you plotted when you were captain.
And if I had a chance to be captain, I would have plotted an entirely different course.
No, please.
Sir, we're going down. We're past the point of no return.
Well, gentlemen, it seems it falls to me then to do the honourable thing and resign.
What?
I wish you my best and Godspeed.
Yeah. Oh. Wow. Right. He's gone.
You know, I think I'd make a pretty good captain.
Well, no, I want to be captain.
No, I said I want to be captain first.
I was
Get
never
off!
given a
I'm
chance.
in charge.
I was never given a chance to be captain.
It's my turn.
No.
Oh my goodness, it's too close to the truth. Liz Truss recently made a suggestion that people wouldn't pay any more than $2,500 for their bills, and the Full Fact has corrected this, of course. Liz Truss wrong to repeatedly say energy bills are capped at £2,500. So what was claimed through the new energy price guarantee, the maximum people will pay for energy will be $2,500. This is false, and people are going to discover this also tomorrow. This is false. The figure is based on the amount of typical household usage a household will pay based on the average energy usage, but it is not a cap on the total cost of bills. It's a cap on, where is it? So it says here, yes. What is the energy price guarantee? Announced by the government on the 8th of September, the energy price guarantee is intended to reduce the amount that households will pay for gas and electricity from the 1st of October 2022. The policy limits the amount consumers will be charged per unit of gas or electricity. So it's a cap on the unit of gas or electricity, not on the total. For customers in Great Britain, on a standard variable tariff paying by direct debit, the average limit will be 34.0p per kilowatt hour for electricity and 10.3p per kilowatt for gas. A limit will also apply to the rates of households on prepaid meters pay for each unit of energy, though the government says that there will be small difference between the unit costs and the prepaid meter consumer and other bill payers, while households not on standard contracts will receive equivalent support. According to the government, the price cap means that based on the median consumption of households in Great Britain in 2019, a typical household with average use will pay no more than £2,500 a year for 2 years from the 1st of October. So as we see, this is a cap on, and this is something that Martin Lewis has said on a number of occasions. The price cap is not on total. The price cap is on per unit of kilowatt hours of gas and electricity. And this is something that should be pointed out more often, because this figure of 2,500 is not really, it's just, you probably won't pay more than that if you're a medium user. So there'll be some people who pay less, but there'll be a lot of people who will pay more, especially those who are vulnerable, people who are disabled, people who need to have equipment plugged in all the time or charged up, people who need to keep warm because they have mobility issues. They can't move around, so they can't warm up. They need either to have the heating on, or they need to go somewhere where it's warm. For example, a warm bank. And this is going to be something we're going to hear a lot more about over the next number of months. Warm banks, queues for warm banks. What sort of support is there for warm banks? Because warm banks are not residential. They're either commercial, or I don't know, how would you say, hospitals or banks, not banks, post offices or government buildings. I don't know what rate they pay, but they're going to pay more as well. I don't know how they're funded. Lizzie Truss, thanks so much for that super chat. I wasn't wrong, Max. I reject your premise. It's rejected. Thanks for that super chat. I think, Lizzie, I won't call you thick Lizzie anymore. Oh my god. Okay, let's move on from that. There was just one video I wanted to show you here about this crisis.
This is a bad moment, because this is going to mean that interest rates are going to go up higher than they otherwise would have done. They were going to go up, but they're going to go up higher than they would otherwise do. And spending is going to be, well, if not cut, it's certainly going to be a lot tighter than it was previously going to be the case, and it probably will be cut. So the pain is still to come. So you've got that very bad moment, not followed by a sort of more peaceful, prosperous time, but by a tougher time for the economy.
I mean, that's the extraordinary thing, right? Is that actually the pain has only just started, and in terms of the political pain, we can probably deduce from that the political pain has only just started. Sally, what do you think?
I mean, I'm bemused by it, frankly, because I think it's the worst thing I've ever seen, and the reason I think it's the worst thing I've ever seen is that it's been created by the government. I mean, we've sort of dealt with collectively. David and I at various points have been involved in dealing with significant, crises, but ones where you were kind of working with people to solve crises, not creating the crisis. So, listening to those terrible interviews yesterday where they kept trying to say it's all about energy, but actually everybody really knows it's now about mortgages and pensions. And the suggestion today that benefits are going to be cut as well. I mean, how the heck that fits with any notion of levelling up or creating a kind of something that's good for the whole country.
Look, I never believed in levelling up, but this is the complete opposite of levelling up, because it's actually, as she said here, it's going to take money out of people who are already struggling at the moment, take their money away. You're not going to level up. And I don't think Liz Truss was ever really supportive of levelling up, or the people she is now surrounding herself with are the people who want to have a small government. They don't believe in transferring wealth from the rich to the poor. They don't believe in providing a social safety net. A lot of these people have a lot of money and they believe that, well, they deserved it. And if you don't have a lot of money, well, you don't deserve anything. You don't even deserve to live. That's their mentality. These are the same people who want to privatize the NHS. They know there are businesses in America who are rubbing their hands, waiting on the sidelines for the opportunity to jump on board, and they want to make as much money as possible. And, you know, once again, I'm not an advocate for Boris Johnson's levelling up, but the idea behind it was to transfer wealth from the richest in society, in a sense, or from the richest parts of the country to the poorer parts, so that they would be on an equal footing. Levelling down, to be truthful. Anyway, I want to move on. Some people are resisting the Royal Mail strikes. When are the staff working out and what's affected? So Royal Mail workers are striking on multiple days across the next few months, with people warning that expected delays on their parcels and letters. Around 115,000 staff are walking out over paying conditions in the General Workers Union. Communication Workers Union, says is the biggest national strike of any sector this year. 21 days will be affected by the strikes, which the union says will have a dramatic impact on the peak periods such as Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and the run-up to Christmas. Royal Mail says it has well-developed contingency plans, but cannot fully replace the daily efforts of our frontline workforce. So the staff are obviously asking for better paying conditions, and the last resort they have is to strike, because the company which is making massive profits at the moment, the Royal Mail has made massive profits this year, and workers are struggling to pay their bills, and they're worried that the company will start to lay off people and rehire agency staff. Just wanted to touch on that. There was another story. Yes. So let's move on to probably one of the biggest stories this week, and could fundamentally change society. Westminster voting intention: Labour 54%, Conservatives 21%, 7%. So Lib Dem 7%, Greens 6%. So 54%. This is unbelievable. You would see, once again, a massive... If this took place, the Labour Party would win a massive majority in the House of Commons, and they could do pretty much what they wanted. Starmer would be able to ignore rebellions because he would have such a majority. The Tories would be decimated for at least a number of cycles, political cycles, and real change would start to take place. I would hope that proportional representation would be brought in, and of course I would hope that the UK would begin the road back to rejoining the European Union. Will it come to pass? It depends on a number of factors. It depends on when the election will take place, because the Conservatives, if they feel that they're going to lose their seats, they're going to try and hold on for as long as they can. They may try to get Liz Truss removed and replace her with somebody a bit more palatable. They may pressure her into doing a U-turn. But Liz Truss doesn't seem to care. Gareth, thanks so much for that super chat. Max, as an as an IT resident, as an Italian resident, how do you feel about them rebooting Benito Mussolini? As I clutch my pearls, as a woman, it's wokery, cokery on steroids now. I think I mentioned a little bit about it at the last live stream, and it is worrying, yes, definitely worrying that Italy voted for a fascist party. Mussolini, not Mussolini, but Meloni's fascist party. And the silver lining is, I've been speaking to some people, and I was a bit surprised that they actually said this, but I got the impression that they voted for Meloni. I think there's a general feeling in the country that some people voted for her because she's a woman. To give a woman a chance. Let's have a female prime minister for a change. First ever. So I think there was a bit of that going for her. A lot of people were tired with the status quo. And I've said this before, that, you know, generally a vote is a referendum on the incumbent. A lot of people were not happy with the current government. And what we did see a lot of is there was a shift from people who voted for one right-wing party switching to another. So a lot of people used to vote for the League Party, which was that of Matteo Salvini. And it seems a lot of the votes shifted to Meloni's party. So you would have already had people who were voting far right, switching from one far right party to another. So it's been presented in the media as this massive turnout for Meloni and a massive endorsement of Meloni. But I think a lot of it is curiosity. A lot of it is people who already vote far right voting for another far right party. I don't think she picked up a lot of votes. You know, I don't think a lot of people shifted. And I think the two main parties on the other side, the PD, the Democratic Party and the Five Star Movement messed up. If they had worked together, they probably would have been able to get a better result. So, and then there's also the problem for Salvini, who got a very bad result. He was at one stage a couple of years ago at 30%. His party was at 30%, likely to become the biggest party in the parliament, and now he's at something like 6% or 7%. So they've been pretty much decimated as a party, and now he's part of the coalition, but I don't think he'll be satisfied in a very junior position. So he may see this as pointless. He may see this as his attempt to undermine Meloni, and then this is what he's done all the time. This is how he operates. He undermines the coalition that he's in, hoping that he can use it as a tool for him politically to come back as some sort of savior. And he may try that again in the new coalition. So he may undermine Meloni and then bring down her government, or encourage others to bring down the government, and then there'll be new elections, and then he can present himself as the real leader on the right. They generally don't disagree much on policy and disagree when they're in power. It's basically a power game that happens on the right as well. On the left, it's more before you get into power. On the right, it's more when they're in power. They seem to realize, well, I could actually have a better position in this, so I need to get rid of the leader. Thanks for that super chat. I don't know how she's going to rule. There has been talk of her trying to, keep her head down at the moment because she doesn't want to be associated with fascism, but she is a fascist. So it's not doing her international credibility very good. So she may lie low for a bit until she gets start to work, but we'll see. Thanks for that. Cahill, thanks so much for that super chat. The Times reported 1 in 4 hospitals had set up food banks for nurses. 2/3 of bosses reported problems due to staff moving to the hospitality sector. My God. the fact that hospitals are setting up food banks for their staff. Is this not enough for people to say, we've messed up? The country has messed up. We voted for the wrong people. How can somebody look at the NHS hospital or the NHS setting up food banks for its staff and say, yeah, there's nothing to see here. No problem whatsoever. Like, I understand the Tory MPs will say this, but how can somebody vote for this? How can somebody look at that and say, yeah, that's good. I'm okay with that. I'm going to vote for these people once again. Really, I don't understand this. It's different if it's, I'm getting a tax cut, or they're keeping the dinghies away from the coast or away from the shore. Yeah, that's why I'm going to vote for the Tories. That's one thing, which I completely disagree with. But how can you look at food banks inside the NHS and say, yeah, that's okay. I'm good with that. Thanks, Cahill. Great to see you on the stream. Hope you're well tonight. We have Peter. Thank you so much, Peter. What happened to the Lib Dems? What did happen to the Lib Dems? Well, it's a conspiracy that the lady on your screen here with Keir Starmer is actually a secret agent, a double agent for the Lib Dems. She actually planned to join the Conservatives and bring it down from the inside. And she'll probably trash the party, and she'll be hailed as a hero by the Lib Dems. But the Lib Dems, of course, are a party that need proportional representation. They have been making a lot of inroads on the council level, along with the Greens. The Greens have won a large number of seats in councils, because the system works a lot better at the local level than at the national level. So it's it's something to watch. Alistair, thanks so much for that super chat. NHS staff got ballots through their door to vote. Through the door, voted yes to strike action, Max, and they voted yes. So, you can't blame doctors and nurses, medical staff, NHS staff from going on strike, because they have been, during the pandemic, they asked for support and they were given claps. At the end of the pandemic, they were called greedy. We can't afford to give you any more money. We can't afford to pay you more. They've faced crisis after crisis. Their staff are not earning enough money, so they have to go to food banks. And when they go on strike, obviously you'll have the right-wing media, Gammon Brexit News, Talk TV, whatever, the Daily Mail, the Sun, the Express, criticizing them for going on strike. How dare they put people's lives at risk? How dare they ask for more money? Don't you know there's a crisis? Don't you know that, Liz Truss is doing her best? But I think a little bit different. I think things are different now that people will support even, also the NHS going on strike. The right wing hoped that there would be pushback on rail workers going on strike. They'd be called down, they'd be punished for it, but it didn't work like that. Just on Labour polling, I just want to show you a little bit of this clip here, which don't like Gammon Brexit News, but
to be joined now by
this guy, Professor John Curtis, he is well respected when it comes to polling. So let's hear what he had to say.
Sir John Curtis, Professor of Politics at the University of Strathclyde and a polling expert. Hello, Sir John. So what are the polls telling us?
Well, we've now had 4 opinion polls that have been conducted wholly or mostly since last Friday's fiscal event. On average, they put Labour Party 15 points ahead by 45 to 30. That compares with an average Labour lead of 9 points in the polls conducted immediately before last Friday. So 2 points follow. One is the government was already in a relatively poor electoral position before Friday's event, there was virtually no sign of any bounce for the Conservatives in the wake of Liz Truss's accession to the Conservative leadership and the keys of 10 Downing Street. But secondly, so far at least, the polls indicate that the public have reacted against the financial statement. And just bear in mind that quite a lot of this polling was done before the events of the last couple of days, whereby we've seen the financial markets react adversely. And one possibility is that the public will take their cue from that and maybe move even further away. But to give you some idea, I mean, Liam's just been talking about the 45p tax rate. Well, one of the questions that YouGov have asked specifically about the budget, was it fair or unfair? 3 times as many people said it was unfair than fair. Even 2019 Conservative voters are inclined to that view. Now, YouGov have asked that particular question on about most recent fiscal statements, and this is the statement that by far is judged to have been most likely to be unfair. And yes, you've also put up something here from YouGov this morning, or from yesterday, asking people about the ability of the parties to deal with various things. The standout one from that is that the Labour Party is reckoned now to be about twice as likely as the Conservatives to deliver economic growth. And of course,
okay, he goes on for a bit, but you can see here, who do you trust most on each of the following? And you have tackle culture of living, Keir Starmer government 44, Liz Truss government 12, manage the NHS 43, 10, deal with the issue of energy provision in Britain 39, 13. Ensure that people who work hard can get on in life, 38, 16. Who are these 16 people who think the Tories care about that? Help people get on the housing ladder, 37% to 10. Deliver economic growth, 33 to 6. Now, this is probably the biggest one because it's what the Tories used to hold as their trump card in a sense. They would say, yeah, we're the ones who can deliver economic growth. And that has been completely decimated. That is like your greatest strength just taken away. And it's very difficult to recover from that. Handle the issue of climate change, 33, 7. Of course, the Tories don't care. Provide British support to Ukraine, 19, 19. Make Brexit a success, 15, 19. Okay. How do you make Brexit a success? You can't. And well, the Tories are, slightly ahead when it comes to making Brexit a success. Neither 40%. I don't know what making Brexit a success looks like, and what people thought by neither. It's a very weird question. I just want to respond to a question from Cliff Webb in the chat, who says, Max, just wondering why you have such a passionate hatred of the Tories and Brexit. You're Irish living in Italy. Do you have British ties? Not judging, just interested in your own circumstances. Thanks for that comment. I've been asked it a lot, and I look at the Tories as a party that is using the media to manipulate the public into voting against their own interests. And I'm a huge advocate for people voting. People should get out and vote. People should vote as, it's a democratic right. It is a privilege. Many people in many other parts of the world don't have that privilege. I'm not an advocate for making it mandatory, but I think it's part of our civil duty to vote. And what I say is that you should be voting on policy. But what the Tories have been doing over the last number of years, and principally since Brexit, is trying to convince people to vote against their own interests. So they'll say you should vote for our party because we care about ordinary people. And then what they do is they cut taxes for the rich and reduce support for ordinary people who are struggling at the lowest part of the economic ladder, the lowest rung on the economic ladder. When it comes to Brexit was the ultimate voting against your own interests. And it wasn't presented, and this is another thing that makes me so angry about Brexit, is it wasn't presented in a transparent, independent way. There wasn't a commission set up, okay, this is how we're going to explain Brexit to the public. We're going to make sure that they fully understand the consequences of Brexit. No, it was completely political. You had politicians on one side telling you don't vote to leave, and then on the other side you said you had people promising sunlit uplands. And I think it's important to rally against that, to call that out, because if we don't, as James O'Brien said, if you let these people lie to you once, they're going to lie to you. When will they stop lying? They'll never stop lying. And while Brexit is seen as just a British thing, these sort of tactics are used all over the world. And I think that while I call them out here, I call them out in Britain, they are used in Italy, they're used in Ireland, they're used in France and Germany. And you can see how so-called Eurosceptics will try to convince people that whatever problem they have, it's because of Europe, and whatever problem they're facing, the solution is leaving Europe. And this is not even if you don't like the European Union, you have to understand that these people are lying to you. And I have friends and family, and especially since I started this channel, I've built up I think a pretty strong friend base within Britain, and I'm concerned about what's going to happen to people there. Deeply concerned. And as the channel has grown, I feel a responsibility that if I see something, I should call it out. That's basically what I do and why I do it. But thanks for the question, because a lot of people ask me, and I don't always get the possibility to answer it. Number 3, thanks so much for that super chat. Fiscal event, special economic operation, yeah, which we're just going to, which is a tangent we're just going to slide into in a moment. VJ, thanks so much for that super chat. Investors are still selling off UK bonds as we speak. Bank of England can't keep buying bonds. It's like just asking your mum daily, buying from the fruit shop and no one else. Yes, this is it's not sustainable. They can continue, and they seem to. The plan is to continue until the 7th of October, and then what? So they're going to continue for another week, is it? I think I said another week. No, it's not here. But it's going to continue for another few days or another couple of weeks. And then, yes, exactly. What happens then? This is to prop up the market. This is to maintain some sort of stability. And, well, will it remain stable after that? If this is the only thing propping it up, it will collapse once again. And then the Bank of England will have to come in with a new measure. The problem here is that the people in charge in government don't care. They're not interested in actually fixing these problems. Liz Truss has no intention of U-turning. You know, she U-turns over other things, but she won't seem to U-turn over this. And there's a real risk that this would spread around to other nations because of the interconnectivity of banking and financial services. So, guys, we're almost at the end of the stream. I just want to cover one final story here about what's happening in Russia, and this is deeply concerning. We always end on a positive note, don't we?
President Putin there addressing a party tonight celebrating this annexation of 4 regions, Red Square in Moscow. Quite extraordinary scenes there. Let's take you back to Moscow and our correspondent Diana Magne, who is there for us. Diana, victory will be ours, and President Putin there very much emphasizing his narrative that Russia is liberating these regions and people want to become a part of Russia there.
And I think this was a message very much to the country at a moment when it has been shocked, really, by this call for partial mobilization. You now hear the national anthem very loudly behind me, which we don't know how partial it really will be. And we've seen a lot of dissatisfaction. We've seen people fleeing the borders. And I think the whole point behind this patriotic rally and the 3 cheers that were just shouted so that people at the front could hear them 1,000 kilometers away, was what Vladimir Putin said, was to try and reassure people that what Russia is doing and what Russians are fighting for and dying for at the front in large numbers, even though those numbers aren't communicated back home, is for a worthy cause. I think Vladimir Putin has probably been very unnerved by the kind of pictures that have come out on social media that a lot of people have seen in this country. There have been opinion polls from independent pollsters showing that his approval ratings have dropped, showing that people are much more worried now than they were a month ago about the situation in Ukraine. So no wonder he wants to try and legitimize what he's been doing by holding these referendums, declaring these territories part of Russia, claiming that by attacking Ukraine he is liberating and defending Russian-speaking people there. I believe that he in his heart thinks it's a legacy project anyway to try and rebuild what was lost when the Soviet Union dismantled. But I definitely think that on this Friday night, this patriotic rally and this message is as much to mothers across the country, to families who are worried that their boys are going to fight, that it is all being done for a worthy cause, because I think more and more people in this country fear that it is not.
Diana Magnay live.
And it's not. What we're seeing is more and more people resisting it, more and more people concerned about, why they're being sent into the meat grinder that is Ukraine. Of course, we have to understand that what the people in Russia are viewing is different to what we're viewing, and we're starting to see a sort of I hate to say this, but a sort of replication of what happened back in the 1940s. The annexation of territory. Because it's mainly Russian-speaking people there, and these people want to be part of Russia, and of course, by saying that this is Russian territory, it makes it easier for him to convince the public we need to defend our country. We're not defending some other part of another country that we invaded. No, we're actually defending Russia, and it'd be interesting to see how many people actually buy that. So we're almost at the end of the stream. Oh, I want to say thanks to Alec. Thank you so much, Alec. Max, I don't think the Bank of England can save pension trusts. There is a YouTuber called Fact Not Fiction. I don't know if he's on tonight, but I'd love to get him on, maybe on the Sunday brunch or something, to talk about this, because he's a very massive. He has a massive amount of knowledge on these issues. This is very difficult for me to understand many times. From time to time, it's difficult to get my head around these types of things. But it's if the pension funds do collapse, what we seem to have is pension fund managers selling them off, or trying to get them funding, trying to get funding for them. If just on the higher level, if the pension funds do collapse, then what happens? You have people who won't get their pension. They'll go to their bank expecting to see their pension being paid in, and it doesn't get paid in. Or they go to the post office where they get their pension and it's not paid in. They're sorry, no pension today. How are people going to react to that? That would bring down the government. Doesn't matter about whether the Tories want to hold on to power or not. That would bring it down. Because then it has a cascading effect. People would start to rebel. People would to go to their banks and complain. There are so many things that could go wrong there. We can't even predict it, because it wasn't like 2007, 2008. It'd be much worse than that. But you would have central banks trying to intervene, I would imagine. And as I said, there's a risk that this would spread to other countries. Roshin, thank you so much for that support at the end. Thank you so much for that super chat. I don't know enough about financial markets. I don't know much about how these things work, so it would be good to have an expert on to speak and to explain these things to us, because there are so many things happening behind the scenes that we don't know about. We tend to look at just the real economy. We don't know how the these financial products work and how they affect our lives, and why they're so important, and why it's important for us to understand what happens if they go south. The Sudetenland, yes. So, as we're almost at the end, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who came on tonight. I want to say thanks to everyone who sent a super chat, greatly appreciated. Thanks to the moderators for doing a wonderful job. Remember, on Sunday we have our Sunday roast. We have 2 special guests for the Sunday roast, so do check that out. And if I don't see you then, I'll see you on Tuesday, same bad time, same bad channel. We'll see if Liz Truss is still Prime Minister. She may be gone by then, or maybe not, but we'll see. So I hope you enjoyed this crisis. What crisis?
This country's economy is in crisis, isn't it? I wouldn't call it a crisis. Then what would you call it? A particular idiosyncrasy? An anomaly? A singularity? You're saying the economy is a black hole. Is that what that word means? I've always wondered. People up and down the country are scared, Minister. Well, they don't have to work with her. I mean, there's no need to be scared. Do you really think that will reassure people? Well, it should. Listen to me. Everything is just fine. And it's probably worse in Japan. Do you regret anything in the mini budget? We've taken decisive action. We've always said we have to be prepared to take the wrong decisions in the interests of the country. I mean, Minister? Look, I think we're all forgetting who the real villain in all this is. Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin cut the top rate of income tax. No, he invaded Ukraine, which caused the energy crisis, which we have solved by guaranteeing that no one in this country will pay over £2,500 for their energy bills. But that's not strictly true, is it? That figure only refers to a typical household, so if you use more, you will pay more. Yes, but typical is just a fancy word for everyone, isn't it? Is it? The point is that people can go into this winter not worrying about their energy bills, and instead worrying about inflation, their pensions and their mortgage bills. But at least they'll be nice and warm as they do that. Look, it's going to be a tough winter, but we are focused on growth. We need this economy to be producing jobs for the future, like cyber butlers or conservative leaders of the opposition. You say you want growth, but it's all of the unfunded tax cuts and massive borrowing that's spooking the market. Well, they'll feel a lot better when we reveal our iron discipline in spending. Iron discipline. Yes, it's not just the title of my favourite film, it's also what we'll be doing to public sector budgets. It sounds a lot like you're bringing back austerity. I don't accept the premise of your question. That wasn't a question. Yes, of course. Is this a question? Isn't this focus on growth just ignoring inequality? Yes, we've been very clear that as a country we need to stop worrying about how we divide the pie and focus on growing the pie. And how do you grow a pie? In a pie garden? Thank you, Minister. Next up, as Liz Truss prepares for the Conservative Party conference, we ask how many people do you know who were so awful on their honeymoon that their spouse wanted a divorce before it was over?
Wonderful. Well done, Matt. And just a spoiler, we have Matt on Sunday, so do check that out. He was wonderful. So guys, have a great weekend. See you on Sunday roast. If not, see you on Tuesday, same bad time, same bad channel. Once again, thanks to everyone who came on. Thanks for all of the super chats, greatly appreciated as always. And thanks to the moderators for doing a wonderful job. As always, stay safe and have a great weekend and be careful. Good night, everyone. Take care.